Hey YouTube, Ender Angel here again with the fourth episode of the Loki Agent of Asgard collection. If you haven't watched the first three episodes, I highly suggest you go and watch those first. I'll leave a link in the description below. The comic we'll be covering today is Loki Agent of Asgard number 3. Spoiler alert, I will be covering this comic in depth. I'll be narrating the pages, so you have been warned, spoilers are ahead. The cover depicts old Loki sitting on a throne with piles of treasure behind him. Let's see what happens. We find ourselves in the cell of the original Loki. The All-Mother has locked him away. However, this isn't stopping him from spying on his younger reincarnation. He compares his doppelganger to a girl and a child for showing sympathy to Verity during the speed dating event. Old Loki has been placed in a cell without doors or a window, a sure sign of her lack of trust in him. However, he feels that he has cooled his heels in her prison for long enough. He tells himself that time waits for no man, and there is still work to be done. As easily as someone walks out of a room, old Loki uses magic to escape the cell the All-Mother created for him. Old Loki's younger self is trying to rewrite his history by having his old crimes erased. Old Loki sees it as an opportunity to create a new story. Old Loki travels back in time before he was born to the old realms of Asgard of legends. He waits like a serpent in a tree for a young prince on the road to seek his fortune. Loki asks the young prince a riddle. He says, "I run more when I'm sick than hardy. I blush like a maiden when in my cups, and I smell even after I bathe." He asks him, "Who am I?" However, the young Odin isn't sure what the answer is. He tells the young prince, the answer is as plain as the nose on his face. He tells the young Odin his true name is Loki. However, he tells him that he is a god of tall tales, small mischiefs, and riddles. The prince invites Loki to walk with him for a while, so that he might hear more of his excellent riddles on his journey. Loki is happy to join him. In fact, he is the reason he's traveled back in time in the first place. It isn't long before the pair come upon a giant otter sitting in a running river. The beast was quiet and gentle as it gathered its fish. Odin marvels to himself at how wondrous the creature is. Loki agrees with him as he digs something out of his bag. Then, in a blink of an eye, he throws a dagger, hitting the otter between the eyes, killing it. Odin is disturbed as they feast on the otter's meat. He asks why he would do that to a harmless creature. Loki replies, mischief is in his nature. However, Loki goes on to say that the meat was good, and he was able to make a pair of fine cloaks for both of them out of the fur. So Odin lets the matter drop. As the day drew short, they come across a traveler's inn. So they take up the innkeeper's offer to stay. The innkeeper explains one of his 3 sons still hasn't joined them, saying that he is a shapeshifter named Atur. He then tells them that he went out as a river beast to fetch them their supper. Odin's heart grows heavy hearing this tale. Odin tells Loki in a stern tone that they should leave. The innkeeper states that they have a warm fire. Why would they want to leave? The remaining 2 brothers realize that they have murdered him, saying they recognize the hide they wear as their brothers. They are ready to slay them when one of the brothers, Fafnir, suggests ransoming the prince for gold. The innkeeper is shocked at his son's greed, wanting gold for payment for his brother's life. As the brothers argue on what they should do, the innkeeper orders Loki and Odin to lay his son's skins on the floor. The innkeeper tells Loki he has until dawn to cover these furs with gold. He states that if even a hair can be seen, they would kill Odin. Loki agrees to the terms. Odin, stricken with grief from their action, agrees as well with the terms. Loki takes his leave, saying that he shall return soon. Loki knows of a legendary dwarf that has enough gold to cover the furs, and then some. Loki comes to the base of a waterfall. The dwarf, named Andarvi, has hidden his gold in its waters. He transformed into a giant pike. The great fish can't be captured by hands or nets nor hooks. Plus, no magic can touch him. However, Loki is determined and tells him he has come for his gold, so hand it over. The fish asks Loki if he has a rod or net or hands that can catch him. Loki tells him no. The fish continues by asking if he has a spell or enchantment that can touch him. Loki admits again there is none that exists that can. The fish asks what his plan is then. Out of his magic pack, Loki pulls out something he has brought with him from the future. It is a powerful weapon of Midgard, a M20 recoilless rocket launcher. Since the weapon is from Andarvi's future, he never dreamed up a way to defend against such a device. The rocket hits its mark, exploding on the back of the fish. As Andarvi lies dying in the river, he calls Loki out as a murderer and a thief. He tells Loki that he will place a death curse on the gold, that it will force truth on all that own it. Loki isn't worried about the curse, since the curse was intended to force Loki to tell the truth that he murdered the dwarf for the gold. However, when questioned about it, Loki merely states he killed a fish with a bazooka, which sounds like nonsense to the innkeeper and his sons. As they leave, Odin tells Loki he owes him his life for saving him. Loki tells him that maybe one day Odin will meet another Loki and save him in return. Loki then asks Odin to build a strong box with 5 keys and 5 locks. He also asks him to imbue the keys with his strongest magic he has to protect the box forever. He states he will tell him what to put inside the box at a later time. Meanwhile, back at the inn, one of the brothers, Regin, wants to slay every Asgardian in revenge for his fallen brother. The innkeeper, however, said enough blood has been spilled. The gold was bringing out all of their true natures, but for Fafnir, it was greed for the gold. He stabbed and killed his father, and left his brother for dead, as he spirits away the cursed gold. However, his brother survived his attack. Regin swore that his sword would end his brother's life. Since he was badly injured, he knew another would have to take up this task for him. Each brother lives with their obsession. For Fafnir, he covets the gold most of all. Regin forges the hero sword to kill his brother. He names the sword Gram. It would take Fafnir's life, as well as be the bane of Asgard. Fafnir, on the other hand, obsessed endlessly over his gold. Like the dwarf Andarvi, He wouldn't leave the gold even for a moment. He drank from the cursed magic of the gold to survive. And that dark, twisted magic altered his very being. He was transformed into a hideous dragon that lived only to protect the gold. Now we see Sigrid, the ever-glorious. He is Asgard's first and most legendary hero, never one to back down from impossible odds on the battlefield, and never one to be tied down in matters of the heart. During his travels, he visits the Inn of Region. Hey guys, taking a brief break to remind you to like and subscribe, as this will really help the channel out. Plus, hit the bell icon so you'll be notified so you don't miss any of our future videos. Please do so quickly before Kang the Conqueror erases you from time. Region could tell that Sigrid was a hero. He tells Sigrid of a dragon that protects a large gold store. Sigrid assumes that he's telling a tall tale. He states that he has spent years searching for its lair, and that he has forged a sword to slay the beast. He is unable to do it himself because of his injury. Sigrid asks to see the sword before he agrees to anything. The hero's blade is able to cut down an oak tree with one swing. Region tells Sigrid that the sword and the gold can both be his. All that he wants is the dragon's heart. For those that eat a dragon's heart cannot die except by magic. Sigrid tells Region to prepare for a meal, that he'll slay his dragon tomorrow. So the next day he faced the mighty Fafnir in combat. Drenched in the dragon's blood, he leaves the cave, dragging the dragon's heart behind him. He leaves the gold of Vandarvi in the cave, but the curse of truth is his to bear. As Sigrid roasts the dragon's heart for his supper, he hears a faint voice call his name, warning him to beware. However, it wasn't Region's words. The voice is coming from a small blackbird on the windowsill. It tells Sigrid that the dragon's blood has cursed him with truth, which allows him to hear bird speech. The bird tells him again to beware. Sigrid attempts to tell Region of the bird's warning. Region insists that he tends the fire, that they must eat the heart the moment it is cooked. Region stealthily pulls his knife while Sigrid's back is turned. He tells them to think of all the good they will be able to do when no mortal weapon will be able to harm them. The blackbird again squawks its warning, beware. Sigrid wisely heeds the warning, stabbing Region before he can attack him. Region is stabbed by the very sword he forged. He thought he was seeking justice, but the sword reveals a terrible truth to him. That he was a murderer who found an excuse to kill. Sigrid asks the bird what he should do. The bird tells him to eat the heart, become immortal, and his legend will grow in the time he has left to him. Sigrid questions the bird's remark. It replies, his time won't be as long as he thinks. The bird departs, and the years pass by for Sigrid, until his false heart catches up to him. As some would tell the tale, Sigrid escaped Asgard to avoid the wrath of Bor, but the truth was that he was escaping his obligations. Then Bor died some years later, leaving the throne to his heirs. Among Bor's belongings, Odin discovers the hero's blade, the blade of truth. The same blackbird that warned Sigrid visits Odin with the sword in hand. The bird flies in his window, telling him the time has come. The bird transforms into old Loki, Loki reminds Odin to remember his life debt that he owes him. He then tells Odin to lock the sword inside the box he asked him to build, and then scatter the 5 keys to the wind. He then uses magic so that Odin will forget who asked him to do this. The hero's blade locked away with Odin's magic for a future Loki to claim. Odin agrees to do it, since no one will be harmed, then questions who the young man is that appears in Loki's orb of magic. He only tells him that he has no one to be concerned with, only that one day he will be important. Meanwhile, we return to the present. We see a lone figure climbing the mountain that held the hero's sword. He stands stunned at the opening. He can't believe what he is seeing in the back of the cave. He finds that the sword has already been taken by Loki. He is surprised, since he just learned of the sword's location himself. It is Sigurd, looking as youthful as ever thanks to the immortality. He'll just have to take the sword back, he thinks to himself. So, this concludes the 3rd issue of Loki, Agent of Asgard. In our next episode, we'll cover Loki, Agent of Asgard, issue number 4. Here is a preview of the next issue. Please don't forget to like and subscribe to help the channel grow. Also, hit the notification bell to be notified when we upload next. Thanks, guys. See you next time.